How do we get here? How about that?
How did we get here?
That'll be the theme of this interview.
Okay.
How do we get here? It's kind of crazy, eh?
Mm,
Isn't it?
It's
10
true.
years ago, did you think you'd be here?
No, never. 10 years ago, I organized my first event, though. But
What was that?
it was a fundraiser for the earthquake in Haiti. And
Oh.
it was the earthquake happened 2 weeks before my birthday. So I decided to use my birthday as a fundraiser. And we raised $10,000 in one night. I know, for Doctors Without Borders. And I just remember like feeling so happy, like the happiest I've ever felt, raising money for somebody and knowing that I'd done a nice thing, right? And yeah, it was the greatest feeling ever. And then that's when I went back to college. Like that wasn't the deciding factor, but it was then that I decided to go back to college and study to become an event manager instead of doing mining and stuff.
What was the event? Was it an entrepreneurial event? Was it like
No, it was
just a charity party? Like
I literally just decided to do a little concert at my local bar that is in my town called Teddy's. And I went in there and I said, hey, can we do like a concert to raise money for the relief efforts in Haiti? And I said, I'm going to, Doctors Without Borders will be my charity of choice. And we'll have like a concert and people can pay to get in that night instead of like just coming here for free. We'll charge them $5, and then we'll have an auction, and then we'll just have a place where people can make donations. And now there was one family that made a very large donation, which was like a big contributor to all of that. But the restaurant was great. They let us put on this concert. They helped us find gifts, and they did like a special on their wings that night, and we filled the place up. And it was on my birthday. It was my 30th birthday, and it was a fundraiser, and we raised all that money. So we raised $10,000 for Doctors Without Borders and in Haiti. And I just remember thinking that was the best thing I could ever do. Like I always tell everybody that I'm a humanitarian more so than anything else. And I cling to that because I've always identified it that way ever since I was a kid. And so I think, when you can use your skill set, or you can build a job around something that you're passionate about and something that you truly identified with in your soul. And that's, helping people and all that stuff, you end up in a good place. You end up doing the things that you really love doing.
So did you become a humanitarian for us poor entrepreneurs?
That's basically it.
Because you live it. You know how crazy this world is, and what we put on the line, and
I know
the hours and the risk.
I know.
And the sacrifice.
It's funny. I'm in the middle of that right now because I'm like super jet lagged, but I'm getting up at I literally got up at 5 a.m. this morning, and I was so energetic today though. Like I got up and I just like flew through, and I've it's what 8:25 p.m. right now. I'm not even joking. I've barely stopped for a minute today. I've just worked solid all day, even during dinner. Unfortunately, I don't like to do this, but we're just having a bit of a challenge with some flights we're booking for some of our clients, and so this travel agent phoned me right during dinner, and I'm like, I've been waiting for her for like 2 hours, so it's like I gotta take it. So even during dinner today, it was like not my favorite thing to do, but you work so hard, and then at the same time I'm like trying to deal with the potential exposures and threats with coronavirus impacting my business and my events, and all the different things, and trying to make sure that we're getting all of our ticket sales done because we have 1 month left until Branson shows up, and everything is and it's so funny when I had this guy phone me, and he was telling me this sort of sob story about why he couldn't do this one job for me. And it was really I was like, are you kidding me? Do you even, I said, I wouldn't even have the gall to come and tell me this, knowing, it was just the most And I'm like, you are not, like in my mind, I'm like, you are not an entrepreneur. And he's not, like, that's not his job. But I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I can't even imagine if that was my worst problem, I would be so happy, you know, but it's so funny. So I think, you know, it is ruthlessly hard sometimes, but then the joy at the end of it is also, and throughout, like, even though I'm under an immense amount of stress and everything, I'm so happy doing what I'm doing that I don't even care that I'm under stress. Like, it's a weird thing. Like, I sometimes like kind of laugh about how I can just be super calm, and I have people always telling me this, like, I don't know how you're freaking out, not freaking out. Like, 'cause I really love what I'm doing, and the stress is just kind of part of it at times. But you have to just kind of keep loving it, right? Otherwise, if you don't love it, you're not going to continue doing it because it's hard.
I don't know. I might convince you to do some day trading with me.
That, I'm like, oh my gosh, I tried doing that. I'm like, I don't think I could ever. I just don't think I have the discipline for that. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure I could make it happen, but yeah, again, you have to really like it in order to like continue doing something consistently. I do believe that you have to like. So far, I'm not there yet.
We're working on some stuffs as well. I have some more crazy ideas on what it can look like for much more like classroom style. Like, as in, like, no, not even classroom style, more like show up for a couple hours every day, and yeah.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah. I have someone interested in teaching it, kind of like on a regular basis, because, you know, if you're a day trading teacher, you have to be in front of your computer anyway, so you might as well be in front of us and get paid for it.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I think what you're teaching is really valuable. I really do, and I think that like I'm actually really excited to see some of the success stories that come out of your program. You know, when you look at the potential, it's huge.
And we'll get into it more. Like, we'll talk about, like, well, I guess we'll be sharing about it. Am I announced yet? I don't even want to I don't want to go on into that part yet.
Submitted all your stuff. I just submitted all your stuff to our team.
Excellent.
I know. I'm a little bit slow. I was in South Africa trying to like not work, but working.
Can we share it here? Or I'm going to release this week.
Yeah, you can share it.
I can share it?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Erwin, would you like me to ask you? Just kidding. Erwin is going to be one of our speakers. Yippee skippy. And he's going to be talking about trading stocks and all the ways that, well, you can tell. Why don't you tell me exactly what it is that you do and you speak about?
This is supposed to be your show.
I know, but I want to hear it from you. Like, I mean, I know what it is. I've seen it. I've taken the course. I want to know how you describe it.
It's hard to describe. Oh, it's, you know, in a perfect world, I enjoyed a lot, so I'm doing more than half hour, but it honestly should only be half an hour a day, what we call stock hacking. And for listeners of this show that know what I'm talking about, because I've been talking about it for a while. And, so this episode will be pretty fresh. Today is March 2nd. So the market's recovered significantly today. I recovered about a third of my losses already. And I'm not concerned, because I'm trading I'm responsibly trading with a responsible amount. So I'm honestly not that worried. And I really look forward to hopefully picking up some really good deals. But yeah, so, and I'll be sharing about this topic on your stage, Haste and Hustle, April 1st. At the Mattamy Center? I still call it Maple Leaf Gardens.
No.
I'll probably get sued.
Yeah, we're not there. We're at Meridian Hall.
Meridian Hall, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, we're taking over Meridian Hall that day, formerly Sony Center. And yeah, I'm so excited. You know why? Because I think with what you teach and the option for people to get into stock trading, you know, it's something that anyone can do, you know, as well as their career, you know what I mean? And so, you know, it's always great when you can find ways to develop another stream of income, a great way to build your wealth. And and see some great returns. And so when I think about all the things that entrepreneurs have, they have flexibility in their time typically,
Mm-hmm.
which fits well with this because then you can kind of have it available to you.
Mm-hmm.
And typically now, our audience is pretty young and tech savvy and, loves to learn stuff. So there's, we see that within our audience. So I think it's a perfect audience to pick up this skill. And then just the opportunity to build wealth. I mean, right now we're at a place where, young people are having such a hard time getting into their first home because it's so expensive, and there's, prices are just inflating like crazy, and people need to like figure out other ways to build wealth outside of just their business.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is a great option for people who are entrepreneurs who are looking for other streams of income and ways to build their wealth. And this is it. So I feel like it's a great topic to add to our stage. And so I'm very excited to have you there.
Yeah, and it's only half an hour a day, and it's honestly a lot of fun. We find a lot of fun, and I wanted to continue on this this journey. How did we get here? So, what was the motivation for your first big event, the one you did in Niagara Falls?
I was doing a lot of work for clients, and which I really liked, but I was sort of like antsy. I always knew that I wanted to do something bigger, and I wanted to impact people, and I wanted to help people. And I'm also very passionate about the Niagara region because I love it here. I've grown up here. It's part of my heritage. And I saw, an opportunity where people from Toronto didn't really look at Niagara as a viable business destination or place to reside or whatever. And I'm like, no, there's so much option. There's so many wonderful options here. You're close to the border. There's there's like a tax-free zone. I forget what it's called, but there's like low cost of living or lower cost of living, and there's still great proximity to major markets and I'm like, those are the sort of the few things. There's so many other great things. And so I thought, if I can do an event here in Niagara, then I will draw business people down here. We'll like bring in some major names, and we'll start to kind of put our name on the map a little bit more. Like I had this super idealistic idea, right? And so I like looked to Gary Vee, and I'm like, yes, Gary Vee is the guy. He like is accessible. He's the guy. Like everyone loves him. Whatever. And
so Shauna, did you? At what point? So did you book the event first, or did you get Gary first?
Gary was the very first thing I did before I even had an event, and that's a whole story.
Gary, come to this event I haven't booked yet.
I know, and it's funny because his team came to me last year, and they're like, "Can you tell us the story of how you booked Gary without an event?" And I was like, "I don't know. I just filled out the paperwork." And they're like, "Okay, like, what do you mean?" And I said, "Well, like," they're like, "Don't you know how hard it is to get Gary?" And I said, "No, I did not know it was hard." And they kept laughing at me, like in a nice way. Like they were like, "Wow, that's the best quote ever. I just didn't know it was hard." And I was like, "It didn't though. Like I just did. I wanted to book them, and I thought, well, I'll give it a whirl." And I filled out the paperwork, and it got accepted. Like,
so you went through the same channel as everybody else, and you got them.
Yeah. Well, and that was part of the thing that everyone was saying to me was that even Casey Neistat said that to me. He's like, "How did you get both Gary and I together?" He's like, "No offense." He's like, "I love your event." Like, he was really nice about it. He's like, "But it's really hard to get us booked on the same day at the same event, and especially a smaller one like this." And I said, "I don't know. Like, I didn't know it was hard. Like, I just filled out your paperwork." And he like, I don't think he knew what to say. And then at that moment, that was on the day of the event, it didn't really like register with me until Gary's team came to me and asked me the same question about a year later. And I was like, I don't know. Like, why do people keep asking me this? And so I don't know. And so I just did what I don't know. I just chose to do it, and it worked out. And so.
And you went through the regular channels.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So for the listeners' benefit, this is Gary Vaynerchuk we're talking about, CEO of VaynerMedia. He has 2.1 million Instagram followers. He's a 5-time New York Times bestseller. He's got 7.7 million followers on Instagram and another 3.4 on Facebook. Uh, Great show, great content, great speaker. I saw him at another event. Great speaker. He's extremely well liked.
Mm-hmm.
And you just got him through the regular channels, and you paid him a lot of money, right?
Yeah, I mean, at the time it was a lot less than he is now, but yeah, I paid his fee. And the other reason I wanted him is because he used to be a wine guy. Like, he still is kind of a wine guy for sure, but more so. And I remember watching his show, Wine Library, back in the day. Growing up in a wine region, kind of people just knew about him that way. And then he started becoming this other thing, and I started following him there too. And so I was like, well, he's the perfect guy to come to the Niagara region. He's business and he's wine. Like,
Yeah.
And so we had some fun with him. We actually did a blind wine tasting with him on stage. And it's really funny because, you never know how the camera can like make, fool you into thinking something's is what it is. Something is something else, right? Whereas, so I'm like, is he really that? Does he really have that good of a palate? Like, I want to see. And not that I was like trying to like call his bluff. I just was like, I'm so eager. And so we did this blind
tasting. Curious, why not?
Yeah, I was just curious.
Who's not curious?
He was baller. He picked up every note. He knew exactly the kind of grape it was. We didn't tell him anything. And it was a covered bottle. He knew it all. And it was some weird stuff. Like, I was like, this guy is the real deal. And I remember at that moment, I was like, all right, if I wasn't a fan before, I am definitely a fan now. And it was just cool. Like, I just remember, you are the real deal. And then when we ended up working together on my second event, it just confirmed it more for me. Like, this guy is so nice and so kind and so smart. Like, everything that you could ever imagine he is that. Except I know some people think he's really pompous and super, slick sometimes. I think people misinterpret that about him. I think it's more of a projection of themselves often, but I do hear that from people, and I'm like, no, he's not that. Like, he kind of puts on a bit of like a slick, approach sometimes. But the guy is amazing, and so I value him very highly.
When I saw him in person, he signed so many autographs. He took so many selfies with people.
Yeah. He invited my entire audience on stage with him the first year. Everyone came rushing the stage. He was doing, and it was funny because like he was trying to get back to New York in time for some basketball game that night. So he had to catch a flight, and so he didn't have a lot of time, and he'd already committed to doing like a bit of a media junket upstairs after his talk. And here he is down on the stage taking 200 selfies with people, and and we're like trying to rush him upstairs to do an interview, and it was kind of funny. He was it's cool though. He's a giver, that's for sure.
I know some listeners are interested in doing their own events. So in case anyone doesn't know, you are an event planner for hire as well. So like, this is your full-time gig, and you do your own events.
Yeah.
Haste and Hustle is your own event. What would you tell someone who's interested in doing their own event? I'm actually surprised how many people have reached out to me and asking me, like, saying they're interested in doing their own event.
Yeah, I get it every day. And so, I can usually pick out the people who are, not tire kickers, because I think people generally do want to do it.
Yeah.
People who have very low knowledge on the, like, how incredibly hard it is, and don't have the backing. Like, you really do have to have a bit of backing. You have to have some liquid funds in order to front some of the initial costs. You have to be able to, you have to have the personality to weather the challenges as, ticket sales kind of ebb and flow. You have to, and I can kind of see, if people are right. And so I really do think, like, you have to be able to have those two things for sure. And you have to have a great vision and be super adamant that you know what you want out of it. You know what I mean? But I think one of the biggest things also is that you should have a decent sized community of followers already established. I did
Right.
not have that when I started, and I remember Giovanni Marsico from Archangel. He told me that, and I was like, "That is good advice," but I'd
Right.
already done that. It was too late. But I think I try to give that same advice right now.
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know if beginners realize they probably just see. I don't know. I don't know what they think.
Well, okay, I'll tell you what they think. So, like for instance, when I did my second event,
Uh-huh.
Gary Vaynerchuk came for free. He did it
Mhm.
as a gift for me, and so and people knew that because I talked about it, and so people said, "Well, then why are you charging us tickets?"
I guess, 'cause-
And of course, well, there's a price for the venue. There's a price for my time. There's a
yeah,
price for, the lanyards you're wearing around your neck and
yeah,
the backdrop that got painted and the on and on and on, the AV team and everything else. And like the speaker fees are typically not the biggest part of the event, although they are with my current event. But typically not, right? They're a big part of the event, but not the biggest cost. And so I just think it's kind of funny. People just don't totally realize how much work and how much expense it is, and
hmm
how I'm like, anyway. So I just kind of laugh when people say stuff like that. It's like, oh.
yeah. I had someone ask me. They said they're doing an event. I'm like, and I told them, I don't know if I would have done it again the first time if I'd known what I was going through. And
Mhm.
then they said, "Well, you're doing the second time, so I'm guessing you're thinking the first time was worth it." Like, you were going to find out how resilient you are.
Yeah, true. That's true. It is really hard, right? And I actually have said the same thing. I don't know if I would have done Haste and Hustle 1 had I known.
Yeah.
At the same time, I'm glad I didn't know because I'm glad I did it. I'm
hmm
glad I got to where I am, and I don't know. It's been a real grind and a real challenge, but at the same time, I've had some incredible experiences. I know that the events have had incredible impact on people,
hmm
like positive. I hear really, really positive things come out of the events. And, that to me is like a priceless thing, you
hmm
know?
hmm
So good.
Yeah, like the road, the journey as an entrepreneur is extremely lonely.
Mhm.
And I don't know if anyone who hasn't spent a lot of time in it probably don't realize it.
Mhm.
So you need these places to, be part of community,
Yep.
like know that other people are on this journey with you and network and then make those connections with people that are probably that may help you or you can help them move forward.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I have to say the words real estate at least once because this is a real estate podcast. I tell people all the time, you need a fair amount of ignorance going in as an investor, or else you may
Mhm.
not do it. Especially the really quantitative folks who need who need to have all the right answers before they'll do anything. No, no,
Mhm.
no, no. You need some ignorance, or else you won't do this.
Yeah, it's true. And I think that is entrepreneurship in general.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think that's why people who are so risk averse don't
uh-huh.
typically get into it.
Right,
If you're too risk averse, you're not going to succeed,
right.
I would say.
And to add to that, you have to believe in yourself that you will figure it out.
Yeah.
You will figure it out, or the people you're on your team will figure it out.
100%. I mean, I think I used to always joke that being an entrepreneur is just being a professional problem solver. And that's, sometimes what I feel like is happening every day, just
hmm
solve
hmm
problems, you know? So it's just, yeah, it's one of those things. But I think that's kind of where the fun comes in.
hmm
The
hmm
unknown, the challenge.
hmm
I like a little bit of I think I like a little too much risk. I kind of look at myself now and think, man, can you just calm down a little with the risk? I I remember the very first time I ever spoke to Gary, that was my question to him. And I did not like his answer. I can't remember what he said exactly because
Probably
it
said
was
like F risk or something.
no, he was like if he described it in a weird way. I'd have to like look it up. And I was like, wow, like I am already well beyond that. Like he basically said, don't go beyond this point. And I can't remember how he described it, but it was basically like, if you have like sold your family up the river, you've gone too far. And I'm like, oh damn.
Okay, not there yet.
Yeah. I've not done that. But
I
like,
haven't missed my home.
I just remember what he said I had already passed, and I was like, okay, well, here we are. Anyway, kind of funny.
Oh, and I'll drop, because this is a real estate podcast, I'll say real estate again. In my own situation, we were able to financially back our event because of our investment properties.
Yeah. And, I think with Wealth Hacker, and, the nice thing about that event is that you really took, the time to build that community of real estate investors, pull them all together, and find ways to support and educate one another, connect with each other, and not just investors, obviously real estate agents and people outside of the that as well. But I think that was certainly your dominant market there. And again, you're pulling together a community. You're reducing loneliness by getting people together, and you're surrounding one really good topic. And I think real estate is it's such a, to me, it's a bit of it's one of those things where I'm like, man, I'm surrounded by real estate people, as you know.
Yeah.
I feel like
Ian, Brian,
everyone. Yeah, and it's incredible how many people.
David, yeah,
everyone.
Yeah, you have a lot of really successful friends in real estate.
I know, and you don't even know the half of them. A lot of them are in the U.S. And it's funny, and I'm still like, man, I got to get into real estate, and I keep kind of saying it, and I'm like, I think about you all the time about it. I'm like, yeah, one day I got to get there. Anyway, almost there.
Speaking of risk and entrepreneurship, let's talk about Sir Richard Branson, because I believe he's said he's big on hiring the most talented people he can find, and then kind of like standing back and getting out of their way. And we talk about risk. I'm an investor in his in Virgin Galactic, so I have shares in this company. Space tourism.
I want to go to space. Do you want to go to space?
I don't think while my kids are young. I've already been banned from skydiving.
Oh, really? I'm going skydiving in the spring. Okay, so yes, I think the nice thing about Richard, I feel like a lot of kinship with him, although I would like to feel a little more kinship with our bank accounts, but as of yet, I do not. But I think when I look at him, I'm like, yeah, I see something in him that resonates with me. And what it is it's sort of this fearlessness around risk, around self-promotion, around, trying new things, not afraid to fail, all these, things. And he's running the gamut in his career. I mean, at the end of the day, when you look at him, I almost don't see him as an entrepreneur. I see him as a business, fixer, because he often goes into industries and, figures out new ways to do it. Like right now, he went into the cruise line industry. Well, that's an industry right now I wouldn't want to be in. But they've come up with an entirely new model. We've been trying to do some group bookings on his cruise ships. They don't do group bookings. They don't do a big events. They don't do they never discount. They never give comps. They never do and this is something that every other cruise line does, right? And so I'm like, okay, you're trying to reshape the cruise line industry. You did it with the airline industry. You did it, you're doing it with
recording industry.
Yeah, recording industry. Everything he's ever done is almost like him going into a failed industry or a failing industry, and figuring out a new way to do it. And I really like that, because I like people who want to find a way to make something better. I always felt like that. Every job I ever had, I always got almost chastised for trying to make the systems better, make the, and even when I was just a young kid working at Harvey's, I was like, okay, if we did this, we could save time over here. And, And it was fun. So I kind of like that fearlessness that he has around going into these failed industries and figuring out better ways.
On the website for Virgin Cruises, it's the biggest font is $100 bar bonus.
Oh my gosh, I know. Like these, I'm gonna look at that actually.
That's what stands out the most on the Virgin Cruise website. Let's see what Virgin Galactic says. So, in case anyone doesn't know, Sir Richard Branson is your keynote speaker for Haste and
Yeah,
Hustle on
exactly.
April 1st at the Meridian Center, formerly the Sony Center in downtown Toronto.
Yeah.
April 1st.
Yes, he's going to be great. I'm looking forward to, we're working on, it's a moderated talk that he does. So we have someone interviewing him on stage. And so we're working on the questions right now. And it's interesting. I'm really curious to talk to him about some of these things. Like
ask him that risk question.
Yeah.
He's going to send customers to space.
I'm going to be one. I'm serious. I want to go to space so bad. My son is grown up. He's fine now.
It's $1,000 deposit, I believe.
That's it?
Yeah. Well, I don't know what I don't know what the next payment is.
Oh man, that's a nice thought. Yeah, no, I do. I want to go on that. So we're going to talk to him about what how he would start a business now in 2020, if he would do anything differently than he did back in the day.
Right.
What are the key principles that still apply to successful business growth? What are the core characteristics that he sees in himself
mm-hmm.
that has helped him build a multi-billion-dollar industry
mm-hmm.
or a brand?
Mm-hmm.
And and then we're going to go into some more tactical questions as well, but
mm-hmm.
I really do want to know some of these things, and I think someone with his experience is going to have some really deep insights into that. We can't forget that, like, he's been doing this for a long time, and just because our world has changed doesn't mean that the core principles have changed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they have too much.
I wonder what he looks for in his presidents and CEOs of his companies. Because as us entrepreneurs, like, often we're visionaries or we are the tactical person,
mm-hmm.
right? And it's scaling businesses is just not easy.
No.
Right.
It's
whereas
true.
he's done a pretty good job of it. Cruise ships are not cheap. I'm sure space shuttles are not cheap.
No. It's interesting. I know, because he's chosen very high. Yeah, he's definitely chosen industries that require a ton of capital. Airline,
like recording
train.
industry. Like I mentioned, like to find talent and invest in talent, and how many talented artists you need to sign before you actually find a star. Like,
mm-hmm. Hard. But yeah, I know, and I think he's done some very interesting things. Like, he was always really good at, like, getting free PR, by doing all these crazy stunts that he used to do, and that's kind of always been his MO, jump out of take a hot air balloon across the Atlantic, or,
he did that.
Yeah, crashed it. So it's like, I don't know. He's done a lot of crazy things, but it's gotten him a lot of attention. And I think that's an interesting thing. Like, if you're willing to kind of go out on a limb for your brand. I mean, he really is, at the end of the day, he himself is the brand, right? Like, when he's gone, will Virgin still have its same? I guess it will. But, I mean, it's just different. I mean, he's kind of like this huge personality
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
at the helm, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure they'll carry on. Apple carried on.
Yeah, Tim Cook, Apple's done very well.
I'm not really nervous about that, but he's obviously the right man for the job.
It could be a woman.
Oh yeah, it could be a woman, for sure. I'm just saying, Tim is actually a man, though. That's what we're talking about. Or we'll call him Tim Apple. Like, remember when President Trump called him Tim Apple? you hear about that?
Well, yeah, there's a whole privacy issue between the government and Apple, but we won't go there.
Yeah.
I'm actually interested. Maybe that's another good question for Sir Richard. Is like, how do you choose a successor?
Yeah.
Like, I wonder what Steve saw in Tim, or what the board saw in Tim, that made him. I don't know if he's great or not, but judging by the stock price, he's done all right.
Yeah. Like it's funny because I think, Steve had such a visionary approach.
Mm-hmm.
And, from what I gather, he was like super, sort of micromanaging about things,
Mm-hmm.
but he had this vision, and I think he just wouldn't let it go until he kind of saw it come to fruition. And, he was willing to kind of blow tons of money in order to figure out that vision.
Mm-hmm.
But then at the end of the day, that money all came back to them because it became such a successful product. Right. And, I think Tim Cook has played it a little safer. It's not like they've come up with anything, earth shattering since he's
Mm-hmm.
taken the helm.
Mm-hmm.
So who knows? But they started to venture into aligned industries. They're now into music and the entertainment industry.
Mm-hmm.
But he hasn't invented any cool new products the way Steve Jobs did.
I like my AirPods. And they're very expensive.
A new product, yeah. Sort of just like, just an advancement on the product, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they come up with anything new, because companies have trouble. Actually, no. Virgin, like you've talked about Virgin, like like space travel is new.
I know.
Space tourism is new.
I know. I think it would be interesting. Like, I just think it would be so cool to be in space. Look down on the world.
Boy. So who else are you excited to hear speak at Haste and Hustle 2020?
You. I'm such a suck up. I'm actually really excited to hear Jim Van Aerden speak about social impact. I'm excited to hear our Raising Capital panel talk about some of the different ways to go about that, because I think it's important. It's something that kind of always is evolving and changing, and I think there's so many things that people need to know about it. I'm looking forward to hearing D-Rock, who's Gary Vaynerchuk's head of videography and all those things, talk. I think he's going to have a really interesting insights into how to become successful in the creative industry.
Mm-hmm.
We have.
Sorry, Shauna. Can we just take a second for D-Rock?
Yeah.
I think D-Rock is super fascinating because I always remember when our government was slamming on private industry for having unpaid internships.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They're basically saying, our provincial government is basically saying you can't have unpaid internships, but D-Rock did an unpaid internship, and he's been very successful for it.
Yeah, I know. He's been so good. And I think, I understand why the government was doing that, because I think there was a lot of people who were abusing that, the opportunity to get free interns. But I do think that there's a lot of value there too. I think it's just hard to regulate it and make sure people are being treated fairly.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, you still need a place to pay. You need something that will help pay your bills. I mean, mm-hmm. You cannot pay your bills with experience.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a little bit of balance there. And I know D-Rock, he worked a job and then he did Gary stuff for free on the side, and on and on. He has a very interesting story. So I think that that's where it'll help, because he'll share kind of how he did it. Mm-hmm. And then how he he obviously put some boundaries around it and said, okay, well, maybe after a certain period of time I do want to get hired, and
mm-hmm.
There has to be a light at the end of the tunnel. You just can't keep working for free forever.
Mm-hmm.
So, and now look at him, he's doing so well. And so I think he'll have some interesting insights, and he's actually speaking in collaboration with Syed from Wildhood. They've kind of,
Oh, really?
yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, because those two, because he's, Syed's worked with David on a number of on the brand, and David has supported him, and they've worked together. So they have interesting stories. David's not an immigrant, and he doesn't have that immigrant story the way that Syed does.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they both have that like hustle till it hurts kind of a story,
Mm-hmm.
and then see like this explosion of success. And not that I think that has to be everyone's road, but I think it's also a story of hope where you can sort of say, you know what, if you come over from another country, or if you start in a place where you have nothing, you can still succeed. It's just going to be a little bit harder for you in the initial points. But if you're willing to put in the hard work and, have the right attitude and you will get to where you want to be. So I'm excited to hear that story, because I think it'll be a story that people feel really like good about. It's an amazing. They both have amazing stories,
mm-hmm.
and I think there's some nice resonance there. So I also love the fact that Alex Mashinsky's back to talk about blockchain and that stuff. So Alex Mashinsky is an ultra successful entrepreneur. He's had more than $3 billion exits. He is the patent holder for VoIP. And he's
what? Yeah. Oh my.
And he is super dope. I got to I met him when he first spoke at my event last time, and I really liked him. But he came in as a last-minute speaker, and we didn't have a long time slot for him. And I always wished I had more time for him. So I said, you know what, I want you to speak again next year. So he was down for that. And he's been great. And I went to interview him in New York City last year, where he lives. And it was really cool, because I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, like this guy is super busy. He's a billionaire entrepreneur. Like he has got no time for me, but he's made half an hour that I can go interview him. I'm so excited. So I'm all set to go. And then his assistant calls me and she said, can you just meet him at this across town instead of at this office, because he's had this meeting uptown and he needs to meet him somewhere else. So I said, okay, yeah, sure. So she's like, okay, go to the I think it was like the JW Marriott on the Upper East Side or something. And I was like, okay. So I go there and I meet him in the lobby, and I'm thinking, okay, I have like 30 minutes. I don't know where I'm going to interview him around here, but we'll figure it out, whatever. And so then he like comes in and he's like, Shauna, how are you? He's like, are you hungry? Do you want to have lunch? And I was like immediately like put at ease, and I'm like, oh, I actually was really hungry. So I was like, all right, sure. Like, why not? Like, if someone offers you that opportunity to spend time with them casually, like, do it. Especially someone like that, because you can, like, get to know them, and there's usually so many great insights. So it was great. We sat.
I'm reading his bio. He's serious. Oh my Lord.
I know. So we sat down to lunch, and we were like, he was like telling me he's got 6 kids, so he was like telling me all about them, and I was telling him about Noah. And we were like both like lamenting about how they don't pick their laundry up, and we were having good laughs. Like I was like, this is sort of surreal,
Yeah, you have the same problems as a $3 billionaire.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, don't you have mates? Anyway, but and then it was sort of funny. He was telling me about this. I was telling him how I wanted Noah to go on a trip to Israel, and he's like, "Oh, are you going to put him in the birthright program?" And I'm like, "I don't know what that is." He's like, "Oh, it's going to go to Israel for free. They'll pay for 18-year-olds to go to Israel for free for 3 months, and they pay for everything." And I'm like, "Oh, that sounds amazing." And then he's like, and I'm like, "Oh, like who's it for?" And anyway, then all of a sudden I'm like thinking to myself, I'm like, "Oh, this is probably only for Jewish children or teenagers. Is it the birthright program to Israel?" And then so I didn't want to say anything, but I was like, I don't know if Noah would be able to go on that. He's like, no. He's like, Shauna. He's like, I'm on the board. I'll get you in. Blah, blah, blah.
He's on the board. Oh my Lord.
I was like, no, I don't think you understand. I just don't think you understand. We're not. So then he's like, you know what? It's too loud in here. He's like, come back to my apartment and we'll record there. You can meet my wife and my family. And I was like, all right. Like, I've always wanted to go to a Park Avenue penthouse. Like, this is great. And so, yeah, we go over and I interview him at his home and, met his I don't think I actually ended up meeting his wife. She wasn't home, but his staff was there. They sometimes work out of there. So I got to see them. And anyway, I just remember thinking, like, this guy is so down to earth and so nice, but oh my gosh, like, I actually felt so intimidated because, like, when he gets talking about banking and the blockchain industry,
Mm-hmm.
it immediately becomes so beyond my level of understanding that I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, uh-oh, like, this is too much for me. But he's very interesting and his insights are incredible. And he runs a company now called Celsius, and they actually do um, fiat loans against cryptocurrency.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I hope I'm saying that right. But anyway, really, really cool. Really, really cool company.
Maybe you can lend me some money.
Yeah. Anyway, so I'm excited to hear him speak. I'm excited to hear. John Sticks is going to be good. He's an incredible speaker. Kelsey Ramsden, she runs a major, like, she's one of Canada's top female entrepreneurs and a total bomb. Like, just incredible human. She built roads and airports. She's, an advisor to so many people. Like, she's just incredible. And she's funny. She's got cool things to say. And she's going to talk about some of the myths around entrepreneurship and leadership.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm excited about all of them. I think they're going to be great. Fatima is going to talk about podcasting and
Mm.
how to grow and build a podcast and monetize it.
I'm gonna be so embarrassed because of how low rent this show is.
So, yeah.
And then, of course, we have to bring this back to real estate investors. As a real estate investor, I enjoy going to non-real estate events as well because the world of entrepreneurship. Because I consider real estate investors, they're investorpreneurs.
Mhm.
They are they're just real estate investors are entrepreneurs in the industry of real estate.
Yeah.
There's much to be learned outside of real estate conferences and to
Mhm.
see speakers. And I don't know, maybe one day my tenants will pay me with a blockchain technology. So I'd like to hear more about it.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
all right.
I think it's important to, I think it's important to, stay up to date on current technology, current events, current trends
Mm-hmm,
in business.
mm-hmm.
Because yes, as a real estate investor, you're running a business. And you never know where you're going to find new clients. You never know where you're going to find new associates. You never know,
New ideas.
new ideas, new approaches to doing things, and just inspiration to grow and develop even further, right? So I love going. I mean, I go to events all the time, even ones that completely outside of my
Mm-hmm,
industry.
mm-hmm. Oh, I forget who was telling me. It might have been Brian Tracy. I was listening to an audio from Brian Tracy. I think he even said you should probably do a conference once a quarter.
Really?
Yeah, I wonder what the stats are behind that, as in like how many people actually go out to a conference to learn. How many times they go a year? I'm
Yeah.
sure it's not once a quarter.
No, I don't think so. Get different people, I guess. Maybe different people go out at different quarters. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I realize it's one of my core values. This continuous learning, and
Yeah.
again, you have like even though my business is mainly in real estate, and in investing, you have to go outside and to learn because I don't think I've ever seen a billionaire real estate investor before. So happy to see Alex and Richard speak, and I don't even know what Richard's worth.
Well, billion.
Let me Google him.
Yeah. Tell me. I think it's important to continuously learn as well. I mean, I had a guy tell me one time that I love to read fiction and I love to learn weird new things. Like, I love
Hmm.
studying math and I love studying languages and I love studying science, and I'm like obsessed with physics, and I take physics courses all the time.
Mhm.
And so I think, and it has nothing to do with my business. And I remember him saying to me, he's like, you should stop doing that. You need to just take courses on business development and sales and self development. And I'm like, yes, I do put that in there. But I said, I think it's also really important to feed your mind things that sort of edify your soul. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because I feel like, because I'm a creative, I need this outlet where I'm learning things that are completely different than how to create a spreadsheet and how to manage my money, or how to, like, I just need to like daydream about, you know, warriors in the 1700s. I don't know. Like, I don't know. It's just fun. Like, it taps into a creative side of my brain that really, really helps me to then do my job better. I feel like
Mhm.
I really tap into that creativity at times.
Well, if you're going to be a successful visionary, you usually need space
Hmm.
to have those visions,
Yeah.
to explore ideas, you know, and being
Yeah.
probably doesn't happen looking at a spreadsheet.
It's true. I still read lots of self development, and I still read lots of tactical books, but I think, and listen to the podcasts and, whatever. But I think you have to allow yourself space to have creative time to just be human. And when you tap into that, like, I could daydream for an entire afternoon quite happily lying in the grass. Like, I'm a little bit weird that way maybe, but I love that, and it's funny because, like, whenever I travel, like, I just came back from South Africa, where I'm like, yes, I was sort of there for work, but it was also a lot of fun. And yet I still feel like I came up with some really great ideas. I came to some very clarified ideas. Let's put it that way. And around my business. And I needed to have the time away from my business to like think about it. So
Amazing. So
yeah.
we're running out of time.
Yeah.
What is Haste and Hustle? Because I don't know if we actually covered it yet. Where'd you get the name, actually, before we go into what a Haste and Hustle is?
I was driving down the road, and I
Uh-huh.
had just booked Gary Vee to come and speak at my event.
Your event that didn't have a name yet.
Haven't yet. Didn't have anything. And I decided I wanted to have the word hustle in it. And I was like, okay, hustle, like, okay, how do we put this into a term? And I liked alliteration. And then all of a sudden it just came to me. I was like, Haste and Hustle. And I phoned my marketing friend at the time. And I was like, what do you think of Haste and Hustle? She's like, I love it. I'm like, all right, that's the name. And I went home and bought the domain. Like that.
Yep, it's literally hasteandhustle.com.
Yeah, I got it. So that was it. It wasn't any like stroke of lightning. It was
Mm-hmm.
what I liked in that word.
It's appropriate for entrepreneurship and investing. Like, you have to have haste, you have to have urgency,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to have hustle. Like, I personally have urgency all the time because I always think about what the competition's doing, and that's one of the many fears that drives me.
Yeah,
And,
yeah,
and without deadlines, nothing gets done.
exactly.
It's such an appropriate name. So, what is Haste and Hustle number? It's the three. It's the This isn't the last one, right? Because movies usually only do threes. This is the third
Yeah.
Haste and Hustle.
The third,
This is your trilogy.
I know. I Haste and Hustle has always been for me an event where people can come together and learn the true story about entrepreneurship. I am never going to tell you that you can spend $5,000 on my course and then suddenly become a millionaire and 2 years later drive off into the sunset in a Ferrari. Like, that is not a story we will ever tell you. We are going to tell you about the grit and the hard work and the joys and the challenges and the patience you need and the EQ you need and like, we are here to like give this really thoughtful approach and story to entrepreneurship. And that's always what it's been for me. It's always what it will be. And I try not to like mess with the integrity of
That's awesome. And then who should go?
if you are a professional working in a corporation, I think there's value in you going. If you are an entrepreneur on any level, I think there's value in you going. If you are looking to make new connections, if you're looking to grow your business, if you're looking to like understand new technologies and meet new people and get some mentorship, like there's something for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And we try to, like our demographic is definitely early to mid stage. So, I don't think we're going to get the, chairman of RBC out to our event, and that's okay. It's more for people who are really like on that uptake, growing their businesses, working through all the challenges, and really starting to see some of the success come to light. And we just want to walk on that road with you. Like we really do. And I think that one of the appealing parts of Haste and Hustle is the people is that they see me, they see that I am walking on that path. Like I am not sitting down my beacon of success, looking down on everyone saying, okay, here's how you should do it. I'm like right there. I'm working through it as well. And so I feel like it's almost like we all own Haste and Hustle. It's part of all of us because we're all walking on that path together. Whether we've already, hit the $1 million mark or whether we're, just starting to generate revenue or we're ready to exit for a $10 million, like whatever, wherever you are, I feel like there's something, there's a commonality there. And so those are the people who should go.
Well, I'm excited.
Awesome.
Where can people get tickets?
hasteandhustle.com. They are there, and we try to keep them as accessibly priced as possible. So they start at $149 for startups. They go up to $9.99 or something like that. I can't even remember the price of my own tickets.
$11.99 on the website.
Yeah, $11.99. Thank you. It's because I have so many events I'm working on right now. I can't remember all the prices.
Yeah, including mine.
I can talk about that after this. Anyway, so check it out. I hope you come because I know.
I'll be there.
I'm talking to your audience, my friend. I hope you all come. And I do honestly believe that there's great value for anyone who comes and sits and listens, who makes the effort to take the takeaways and meet people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
it's my belief that you if you go, you have one interaction, you go to an event, if you just have one takeaway, that's a win, in my opinion.
I know.
Amazing. April 1st, Meridian Center, formerly the Sony Center, April 1st. And it's like a 9 to 5 type thing?
Yep, 9 to 6.
9 to 6?
Yeah.
Is there a dinner for anyone that they can get to?
There is a dinner. It's a private dinner with Sir Richard Branson. If you want to attend that, there's quite a cost to it, but you can reach out to me personally and I will talk to you about it.
How do they follow up with you? Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok? I think it's the first time I said TikTok on this show.
We are on TikTok.
You are.
We have a TikTok channel, and it's got a few videos on it. Listen, I try and stay ahead of the curve everywhere I can. I'm just kidding. But yes, I'm definitely on TikTok. Not me, Haste and Hustle. You can reach out to me on Instagram at ShaunaClaire1 or LinkedIn at Shauna Arnott. Facebook, Shauna Arnott, just Google me and I will be there.
Fabulous.
That's it.
Any final words?
Final words are...
How did you choose Sir Richard?
Elon Musk said no.
So you get the other guy that was going to space.
Yeah.
So if then Richard said no, then you're getting Bezos.
Yeah. Actually, we tried. No, you know who our next we wanted either Elon Musk or Richard Branson, and then when we were booking Richard Branson, we always have a backup, and then backup was either LeBron James or Kobe Bryant. And so we had two basketball players. And at the time, obviously, that there's a tragic ending to one of those stories. But anyway, so we were trying to get any and all of those people. And we ended up with Branson. And I do believe he was the right guy. Like, he's got the personality, he's got the success, he's got the brand. So I think I do believe that he has so much wisdom to impart, and I can't wait to sort of look it all in.
Amazing. So, I'm excited.
Come to Haste and Hustle. We'd love to have you. And let me know at the end the successes that you've had, because I love getting the emails of people who have come to the event, had some sort of success, and then they email to tell me about it. That's my favorite part. So
I forgot to ask. I have to ask this question for the listeners' benefit, especially the ones who are interested in doing events. You make tons of money doing these things, don't you?
Yeah. Yes, that's right. Monopoly money. Listen, if I was in this for the money, I would not be in it anymore. You know what? Like, we are definitely trying to build a business. I make most of my money off stuff I do for clients. That's where I generate most of my income and revenue from my events. Haste and Hustle has yet to be profitable, but we're getting closer every year.
Yeah. I ask because, you know, I'm just surprised how many people just assume there's money to be made in like everything.
Well, they don't see all the expenses. That's what. Just like the people who thought I could just do it for free if I had a free speaker. But I let those people think what they want. I don't worry about it.
Fantastic. Shauna, thank you so much for doing this. Stay on. I just need to chat with you.
Okay.
All right. Thanks again for doing this.
Yeah, anytime.
HasteandHustle.com.
Yes, thank you. Bye.